Western officials have said Islamic State is responsible for the March 22nd attack on the Crocus City Hall concert venue in Moscow, which killed at least 143 people and left hundreds wounded. But Russia has asserted an alternative narrative. Don DeBar spoke with Moscow-based journalist Dmitry Babich this past Monday.
What do you see going on sitting there in Moscow with all of this whirling around you?
Well, this whole story with the terrorist act was a huge misfortune, and it attracted a lot of attention. But unfortunately, it kind of exacerbated the already existing tensions. Maybe, in a way, it's understandable why Russians did not buy the US version, that this has nothing to do with Ukraine, that it is just one crazy ISIS group which somehow disliked Russia and decided to do this heinous terrorist act just out of the blue, right after Putin's election. It is clear that it's a strange version which deserves at least to be criticized. First, Russia did not do anything particular anti-Muslim in the last few, I would say, 5 or 6 years. Why would they do it now, if they are such Islamists? Second, this group, ISIS Khorasan, is mostly active in Afghanistan, well, very rarely in Pakistan. And it has a lot of trouble in Afghanistan because they are basically in very bad relations with the Taliban. The Taliban doesn't want a world Islamic revolution. They want their own medieval state there in Afghanistan. And ISIS Khorasan wants Afghanistan to be a part of that caliphate they say they want to create. So it's a little bit like a fight between Trotskyites and Stalinists, The Taliban are like Stalinists. They say that we can build a happy, nice country inside Afghan borders, while the internationalists, the Trotskyites, these are the guys from ISIS who say they want to have that huge caliphate, most likely from Spain to China, which is, of course, a utopia, and a very evil utopia. But why would the ISIS Khorasan, which so far just limited itself to Afghanistan, why would they move their activity to Moscow? Why not to Tajikistan? Why not to other Muslim republics, former Soviet republics? And of course, the fact that the United States and the EU somehow supported the Islamists in just about every war where Islamists took part in the last, I would say 45 years, that also does not serve the American version here. And the American version is that the United States and Ukraine have nothing to do with it. Well, let me remind you, the United States was with Afghan Mujahideen since the start of the war there in 1979. And even before that, even before the Soviet troops pulled in December 1979, the United States had been sending arms there. This was officially announced by the US government in the 90s. It's well documented. So anti-communism, if it played any role, was not all that united the United States and Afghan Mujahideen. Then the war in Libya in 2011. Whatever we say or think about Colonel Gaddafi, the people, most of the bulk of the opposition to Gaddafi were the Islamists. And there was no way the United States and Europe would ignore it. They had hundreds of correspondents working in Libya. They could take interviews from anyone. And obviously, they must have known that these guys were the ones who killed people for consuming alcohol, the ones who killed women for not being dressed properly, all the terrible stuff. So Gaddafi, arrogant as he was, strange as he was, choosing between him and the Islamists, I would have chosen him, but the United States and England and France and most of NATO countries and the European Union, they all chose the Islamists. The result was a prolonged civil war in Libya, which of course continued after Gaddafi's murder in October 2012. So all of these facts, of course, they kind of work on the version that somehow the United States had to do something with this. It's unavoidable that questions should be asked about the US involvement here and the Ukrainian involvement here. Basically, it's very strange. The United States says that they warned Russia about a possible attack, where if you warn, then give information. Russia, when it warned the U.S. Special Services about the possibility of an attack in Boston, remember that bombing of Boston Marathon, Russians gave the names. The Russians said that this guy, Tamerlan Tsarnaev, who lived in the United States and who actually organized that terrible terrorist act, that he was dangerous. But Russia was giving the name. It was giving his details. It was a huge mistake of the U.S. Secret Services. They just ignored what Russia told them. And of course, it was a mistake not to surveil Mr. Tsarnaev and not to pay attention to his younger brother, Johar Tsarnaev, who had the same name as Johar Dudaev and who killed probably not many less people than his namesake, Dudaev. So basically, what kind of warning was it from the United States? Something is going to explode is not a warning. The name of the organization, that's already a warning. The name of the perpetrators, possible perpetrators, that's a warning. So we didn't get it. And of course, it's indecent how in Europe and in the United States they're discussing this terrorist act. They're discussing it in terms of, is Putin going to gain from it or is he going to lose from it? And of course, the old crazy version that Russians kill themselves deliberately, that version is now again on vogue. Why would Putin want to kill his own citizens hours, days after his victory at the election? That no one explained to us. But that is very, very strange thinking. After that, the US authorities say that they don't like conspiracy theorists. There are too many conspiracy theorists. To say that Russian special services deliberately kill hundreds of people to make their president feel better, that's a conspiracy theory. That's a huge, ugly conspiracy theory. And the point is they believe it for 25 years. The first time I heard it from them was in 1999, before Putin, under Yeltsin. They said, the US media kept saying it, when several apartment blocks were bombed, basically exploded in Moscow in the end of 1999. They said, Yeltsin is blowing up these buildings. He is doing it himself. These are almost headlines. This is the essence of what I read then. And Yeltsin was a very, very, very different man from Putin. Now you can get an impression that he was a great man, an ally of the United States. Well, if the United States treated its ally in this way, suspecting him of killing his own citizens. And I remember how the United States insulted Yeltsin. The US media insulted Yeltsin in every possible way. Then probably it doesn't make sense to be an ally of the United States. It's better to be their enemy than to have such insults from your ally.
Yeah.
So that's about it. The picture is blurred, very unclear, despite the positive fact that the 4 people who made this mass murder by their own hands, they were arrested, and thank God there is no doubt that they are the ones who did it because they didn't wear masks during the attack. Again, this is something that makes it very, very unlikely that it was Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda usually sends suicide bombers.
Right.
And if it doesn't send suicide bombers, they take care to disguise themselves. They operate in masks. Here, we had just a bunch of guys who spoke almost no Russian, only Tajik, who obviously did not understand where they were and who these theater goers are. Probably they were for the first time in their lives in a theater, and then they just started killing people. So they were kind of programmed to do it. That is clear. Who programmed them? In whose interest? This is the question that a lot of people here want to know the answer to.
Dmitry Babich, thank you very much for your time and your expertise. We appreciate it very much.